and welcome to the Football Manc Cave chats with Liam Hogan. How you doing, Liam? You all right, mate?
Hi, how are you? Yeah, good, thank you.
I'm good. This weather at the minute's not the best, is it? I've been used to like tropical Costa del Leeward.
Yeah, I've been loving it, to be honest. I've been out in the garden with my little daughter, running around, keeping me busy. But collecting the razors have been going along.
Yeah.
So it's been nice.
How's it been for you in lockdown then? Obviously, no football. You keeping yourself busy?
Yeah, I mean, it's come at a strange time for everybody, but it's come at a strange time for myself where I've just sort of moved clubs. So the season for me has been slightly stop-start anyway. So I'll speak about obviously my injury and that a little bit later on and recovery and stuff. But it feels like I got back and it was obviously nice and fresh and ready to go again. And then only a few weeks, probably a couple of months, and then it stopped again. So really stop-start, but I'm really enjoying the time of this important age of my daughter, being at home with a wife. Got a little dog as well. So the only sort of downside about it is I'm quite a family man, so not being able to go and see the people that you love until sort of recently, where you can go and distance in the garden and speak to them. It's been tough, but to have obviously my wife and my daughter literally every day for the full day has been actually a blessing for me. And we're 9-10 weeks in and we're all right, so we're doing okay.
Yeah, not ripping each other's heads off just yet.
No. Well, a couple of tired eyes here, there, and everywhere, but we're all right.
I've got a couple of toddlers. I've got a 2 and a 4-year-old, and that I might as well just stick a referee shirt on. You're just constantly like ripping them apart. I'm trying to get out as much as I can just to give you a bit of a break.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We sort of do it in shifts.
Yeah.
Somebody will have a lie-in, the other one won't, or one will go and do an exercise, and the other one will. So we're giving each other a bit of a break, that, because like you say, they are full on, and she's on her own at the minute, so she's attention, and obviously the dog runs off and doesn't want to get involved with it, so she has to have somebody with her pretty much all the time.
Right, so I want to talk about your career up to now, and you started off at Woodley Sports, is that right?
Yes.
That was I'm gonna go to Wikipedia. 2007 started off at Woodley Sports. Yeah,
that'd probably be correct, because it was around the time of my work. I was working the gyms, trying to get my personal training stuff going. I didn't actually think football was ever going to be my main career. I was actually doing it to play with mates that I'd met up at Woodley. And it was a decent level, obviously using the AstroTurf area, and they had a great setup. It's changed now, it's Stockport Sports, and the setup they've got there is fantastic now. I've been back a couple of times, but it was more just so I could do something alongside it, and it was a bit of a hobby, and it really was at Woodley, where I played a couple of games towards the back end, that obviously I was doing well, that I got sort of the moves, and was the first sort of time where I thought, actually, I'm going to make a go of this. And it probably was. I think I just got back from America. I went to America, so I think I was working the gyms just before that. I went to America to do some coaching, and I came back and put a bit more focus into Woodley, and had a good season. And moved on. I played really well against one of the opponents, which was Halifax Town. They obviously dropped down through the leagues and had to start sort of again, and as a Phoenix club, as FC Halifax, and they come in for me, and pretty much from there my career's sort of gone on an upward curve, with a couple of knockbacks and setbacks which everybody sort of faces, and as one person used to tell me, success isn't in straight lines, and it's definitely true, because there's ups and downs along the way. But yeah, I've had a good sort of career up to now, and I want to try and keep it continuing.
Yeah, definitely. So you went to Halifax Town. You played over 100 games over 3 years or so there. How was that time at Halifax, and how did that? Because you moved on to Fleetwood then. How did that sort of transpire? Obviously, you sort of said you started off just playing football with your mates. So did you have a different approach as soon as you signed for Halifax, as in, right, I want to start moving through the leagues, or was it just a case again of let's just enjoy football?
Yeah, and obviously I was still, I wouldn't say young, but I was young for entering the game. I think it was about 2021, which is quite old, but I hadn't really ever done a youth academy or scholarship. I'd been at Bury for a few weeks. It might have been up to about a month, maybe 2 months, and experience sort of, being in every day and being around a first team environment down at Bury. And I got a really bad injury while I was there before I actually even made a game for them, because I was on a trial. And obviously my comeback from there, I'd gone back to looking at obviously Woodley and that, and then got the move to Halifax. And when they came in, they were sort of the big fish looking to progress through the leagues. And I knew the journey that they was going to be on was going to be one that was going up, and it was kind of like, open my eyes to think, I'm going to have to really take this seriously now if I want to stay and be, successful, because this team's going to offer me a big chance. They weren't looking at just competing in the league; they were looking to go up the leagues to get back into the Football League where they was previously. And I managed to have a great journey with them. Unfortunately, we didn't quite make the Football League in my 3 years, but we had 2 promotions and we had a defeat in a playoff semi-final. And at the minute they're still at that level. They're at the Conference National. So when I got there, I was surrounded by obviously new lads that had been in the game in the league, that had come down, lads that were looking to progress, and pretty much from the teams that I was in at Halifax. And I'll just obviously give one of the biggest names is Jamie Vardy, who I played with. I've all gone on to make, really, himself is exceptional. But obviously my brother was there. He's now in the Championship, or was it the Premiership with Aston Villa, and players like Lee Gregory's played in the Championship. Dan Gardner's in the Football League, and there were some fantastic players that were mates at the same time, because we were still part-time. So you still obviously get to enjoy sort of not casual side of it, but it's not as intense as what you would be if you was at a full-time Football League outfit. So we still had a good laugh, and more and more so every season now it's getting where the lads are more and more professional at all the clubs. They're looking after themselves, and just going off now at the minute, I'm on my social media and speaking to other players, and the stuff they're doing out on their own. They're either following plans that the clubs have set, or they've decided, if they're out of contract, to do something themselves to give themselves the best chance. It really has got more and more professional, because the levels have gone up. So that time was obviously a really brilliant start for me, and I thought it was probably the best stepping stone I could have had. A fantastic club. The fans were excellent. A great relationship. I've had a great relationship with all the clubs I've been at, to be honest. I've not been at an exceptional amount of clubs for the age that I'm at. It's probably because I came in quite late, but yeah, no, really fond memories, and really good success that I had at Halifax. And I think it was last season was the very first time I've actually come back up against them. So it was quite nice to step out, and they gave me a little clap while I was there, and it feels nice when you're sort of seen in a good light that way. So
yeah, definitely. So you moved on to Fleetwood, similar to Vardy in that sense, as you mentioned before. How did that move? Where were Fleetwood at that time? Because I know they were building, weren't they? Like early, like sort of 2010 to 2013, just trying to build up through the ranks. So whereabouts were they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably as well really lucky, because when we go through the clubs that we're speaking about, every single one of them has had the same sort of position or the same goal of what they wanted to do. And that's probably, down to a little bit of myself being really sort of committed to what I want to do, and doing well at the previous club to attract the next club. And, while I'm there delivering, because all the same clubs that I've been to have had the same goal of wanting to progress. And Fleetwood had just sort of been promoted out of the conference. They'd had a year in that League Two. Sort of established themselves, and then they were then looking to kick on again, and they had the similar goal of progressing as high as they can through the leagues, through League One, which they're at now. And then I think they're pretty close again to maybe doing the next step of going to the Championship. Obviously, it takes time. Sometimes you might be ahead of your schedule as a club, which you'll hear about when I was at Salford, and other clubs might have to have a consolidation year where they don't quite push and they have to build again. But that's just football in general. There's a lot of clubs that are competing now, and a lot of clubs that have either come down, that are massive clubs. You see really big clubs in Portsmouth that won the FA Cup have participated in League Two and things like that, and there's other clubs, your Lincolns and Crawleys at the time that were a real force trying to push themselves through the League Two. So it's a lot of competition, and I'd obviously just really enjoyed my football at Halifax, and yeah, I got the call. It was actually before we finished the season, and I'd had a chat with Neil Ashburn, who was the manager then, who's been excellent. I went to team up with him again up at Gateshead. He's a fantastic man. He looked after me as well as he could, and I'm grateful for that. And I said to him, look, obviously I've got this offer, and it was a chance to play in the Football League. I hadn't done it, and I felt like I should have done it earlier, but now it was the right time. And obviously I just said to him, I'm the type of person that will get all the business done, and it'd be a pre-contract, it was, and go and play your semi-final and your final of the playoffs, and not sort of have any effect on me when I was in the game. And he knew that. He could obviously tell what type of person I was, and obviously I went to meet Fleetwood before the playoff semi-final. We played, we won. It was a fantastic sort of double-header that we played against Guiseley. And then we played Brackley at Brackley, which was one of the most difficult places, and still probably is, to go in non-league. Really, really difficult. Not had many good results there at all. And we went there and we won 1-0. So we actually, I left on a big high. That was my final game, and it was the last game that they played in the Conference North, because the year after then they were Conference National. So I left them obviously in a great position, and we both sort of got our rewards.
And you moved on to Gateshead, did you say, after that?
Yeah, so at Fleetwood, I think because I'd only just been introduced, I still think Fleetwood for me is my best learning curve. I played the least amount of games that I have, probably, barring an injury occurring. It was a real learning curve, and I'm glad it happened. Obviously, if I'd have been into football a little bit earlier, I probably would have picked that up earlier and maybe played at a higher level for a little bit longer. But I still don't have any regrets about that. But I just know that I think Fleetwood was my biggest learning curve, because I went in there, did really well through pre-season and got my start and played, and just in the games I just didn't feel like I'd been myself. I was playing in a different position. All my attributes that I'd shown in pre-season, I ended up at right back, and I just felt comfortable at centre back. You might not think there's much difference, but when you just feel at home in a certain position, and you can help others around you because you're working sort of half on autopilot. I was sort of learning the position brand new in the highest level I've ever played football, and obviously some of the performances weren't what I know I can give, and I think I was uncomfortable. Sort of players that were there were big names in terms of lads I hadn't met before and had great careers already, and I only came across a few games. I think it was about maybe 20-25 in total, about 17-18 in the first season. Successful season. We ended up going to Wembley, and we won in the playoff final at Wembley. We beat Burton, and obviously that was in League One, and I thought that was my time done, even just after 1 year, but it wasn't. We had to sit down with a gaffer, Graham Alexander, who obviously you'll hear about shortly as well, who I've been to work with. Fantastic manager. All my managers really lucky to have. I haven't got a bad word to say about any of them. I've had real different managers in the way that they go about things, but all got results and success. Graham Alexander's, fantastically professional, and I don't believe at the level that when he came into Salford, even at Fleetwood, how he's not sort of gone on yet to manage even higher than he's been at. I think that might come. He's still only young. And we just had a chat, and he just said, look, I'll sort of give you the heads up, like, depending on how pre-season goes, you can go and look for something else and see if something fits, because Fleetwood are on this journey and we're looking to strengthen, etc. And we did. I just said, look, I want to give it another go because I don't feel I've done myself justice. And I did well in pre-season again, and I actually got the start in League One. And we played Crewe, first game of the season, and I had a couple of runs of games. And then I fizzled sort of out again. I think you can only put it down to the same sort of thing of being in the position and another step up, and it just didn't go as well as I planned. But having to then watch the rest of the season or seasons before, I got to know a little bit more about professional football, the league, what it requires, the work rates off the pitch and everything. And I actually had a chat with him, went out on loan to Macclesfield, and that was in the National League, and we was doing really well at the top. I think I played 10 games over the busy Christmas-January period, and just obviously would have liked to extend because I think Macclesfield would have actually pushed that year to get into the league. And Macclesfield have always been quite close to progressing and just falling off towards the back end. But I think that year we had a good team and they had a great sort of dressing room, and I think they might have actually, secured playoffs that season, if not further. But I broke my foot on Boxing Day, which was unfortunate, and I had to obviously go back to Fleetwood and receive my treatment, which took me up until the end of that year, that deal. And there wasn't anything left, so it was a bit of a sort of a sad ending up at Fleetwood. But like I said, it's the best time I probably had in terms of learning. And what I know now and what I provide, lads that ask me advice and etc. If they've been in similar situations, I've actually felt that, so I can now, describe what to do, how it feels, etc.
That's it with experience. Obviously, as you move on, I was chatting to Josh Askew yesterday, and he was sort of saying about the experiences he's had early doors in his career will hold him in great stead moving forward. And I think as any person, you need it, don't you, to push, to learn from. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you obviously can't push forward.
No, and I mean, I don't think you'll see many people that have like I said, success doesn't go in straight lines. Not many people will have gone through without having a setback, and it's how you come back from the setbacks that make you strong. And I think you have to feel them dark places, and to sort of half find yourself, and do you want it? And the answers, obviously, if you're still playing. I look back and think I could have give up, or etc. And Josh would probably feel the same when he's sort of maybe last season, the season before, not done what he wanted. But the amount that he probably would have learned, and I've learned since then, has gone on. And he's obviously a lot younger than me, so he should go on to have a good career himself. It stands you in good stead because it makes you stronger.
Yeah, 100%. So you've sort of finished your time at Fleetwood. You then go on to Tranmere for a year. Is that right? Tranmere for a season.
Yeah, I was really excited actually. I had a chat with my agent, and obviously it's difficult at a time with injury and not playing as many games to move a player as an agent. Because obviously I believe that the player does all the work through his performances throughout the season, and obviously the agents play a fantastic role in the negotiation. And at the time when I used to speak to him, I just could phone him for whatever I needed. So the great support, I always speak to the wife and see what she thinks, and she's obviously to the point and tells me that what she thinks. But obviously, sometimes her knowledge is a little bit limited in terms of football, but lifestyle-wise, she's probably given me the best advice ever. But then when I go to obviously speak to my agent and think about football and what's right for me and what's right for my family or planned family at the time, we was without the daughter then, so it was a little bit freer. It was a time where I was getting on a little bit, and I'd been offered a trial, and I was like, oh, trial at my age. I'd been in the football league. When I turned out for the trial, it was at Prenton Park. I was looking round, and I was the oldest by about 4 or 5 years.
Right.
But this is the sort of thing I want to get out and stress out there, that all opportunities you need to open the doors yourself. I could have just gone, there's no chance. Why should I do a trial? But I thought, no, I'm going to take this opportunity. I want to show exactly what I am. I'm going to play my position. I'm going to get back to the old me where I'm comfortable in games and it doesn't matter whether it was a behind closed door friendly or competitive match. I just wanted to show that I am going to be a football player. And I played in a match. I told my agent, I said, no, I'm going to do it. I said, because obviously, I could have got injured or, anything. But obviously you have to think with a glass half full and see what it could have actually produced. And my wife had just sort of gone to university in Liverpool, and we'd looked at moving in together. So it's sort of, some things in football are funny where they happen, and you think, it was sort of made to be.
Yeah.
So I went and did the trial, and anyway, we played 30-minute sort of intervals, 3/3, sorry, and I actually scored 2 goals in the first 10 minutes from centre half. And when you just think, I've never done that. I'm just sort of in the right place at the right time on corners, and our team was beating the other team. I think it was 6-0, and it was just so comfortable. And I come off after the second 30, and I got a message just from one of the coaching staff, and just said, look, you don't have to try out for the last third. He said, we've seen enough. And
right.
The manager turned up. It was a new manager that came in. It was Gary Brabin. He'd been at Everton Academy, and he turned in, and obviously he'd been at Luton when they had their massive success. And I just literally got changed and went off and spoke to my agent, who turned up at the game, and he was like, how come you came off? And I was like, didn't want to see me. And then, I got the contract, and Tranmere, again, we're in the same situation. It's a massive, massive club, and they were looking to get back into the Football League. And I thought that was going to be the season that got me and the team I was at back to playing Football League. They've gone on to do brilliantly since I've left, and it was only a short spell, but again, it was hampered by injury. I'd started really well. I'd played the first 20 so games, and I was probably at a time around January where I was probably looking to maybe sort of contracts out for a little bit longer, because after the trial it was just a 1 year, which I understand from the club to give because of my age, and it was a trial. It wasn't as if they'd sort of earmarked me out of anybody to sign. So and again, I was played there with some fantastic players. Steve McNulty, the centre half, who probably one of the, well, if not the best centre half who's been around non-league and sort of League Two, and the characters there were all strong characters. It was Andy Mangan, who'd been at Fleetwood on their journey. James Norwood had been down at Forest Green. Some fantastic players, and a couple of the younger lads that have sort of featured there have gone on to do really well as well and play higher. But that didn't sort of finish well. I got injured and didn't finish the season because the 2 lads, Steve McNulty and the other lad that played, who's now playing for Rotherham in the Championship, had a fantastic season. Rotherham hopefully get promoted to Championship this year, but he was playing last year with them in the Championship. And I had to sit out and watch the rest of that season, and that was hard to take because I'd been probably at the top of my game for the first 20 so games, and I was in a great position. And we missed out on the playoffs. I returned on the last game of the season, and from one thing or another, it just wasn't meant to be to sign again. And I took the advice and I went elsewhere.
So you moved on to Gateshead before going on to Salford. Were Gateshead in a similar league to Salford at that time?
So Gateshead were still in the same league as Tranmere, so they're just right. the National League. And it only came about because I was sort of looking again. I was on the back end of an injury and trying to sort of negotiate with Tranmere and see if there's anything else that I was looking at, because I wanted to stay local. We'd just moved into a place, me and my wife, in Liverpool, and obviously uprooting and stuff would have been difficult. But I got a call from Neil Ashburn, who I was with at Halifax, and he'd been trying to get me, the year before and the year before that. And, obviously it's great credit to the relationship that we had from player to manager, because obviously he's done a good job by me and I did a good job by him. So he said, come up to Gateshead and I'll look after you. I'll do what I can. I know it's a big move. I had, the Gateshead had a place for me to stay up there, and I travelled, back to Manchester quite frequently and missed the odd training session. They trained a little bit more. They trained 2 or 3 times a week, so I missed the odd 1 or 2 sessions. But it was just more important that for him, he said to me, play every match. And that season I had a 55, 56 game season, and we should have made the playoffs that year. We just missed out, probably got beat in a game against Dover, and I think we thought we'd blown it when there were still games left that we probably could have pushed on, but we had a really poor run after that defeat. And it stopped us. I think it was about 3 points that we missed out on the playoffs. So it's disappointing, but the team that we had shouldn't really have done that, and we sort of underachieved. So it was quite a big achievement. I actually got the player of the season there, and halfway through that year, it was I was captain up there as well for the first time, which was a massive honour, and that's gone on to stand me in sort of good stead for the last clubs that I've played for, because management and other players have always seen me now as a bit of a leader or a character that will sort of stand out in the dressing room. But I got a text actually off the Salford managers, Bernard and Jono, at the time, just to say, look, come and have a look at what's planned, because the class of 92 have come in. I'd watched it anyway. My friends had played there, and I watched the documentary, and my friends had already been playing there over the last couple of seasons, so I knew a little bit about what was going on. And I said, well, yeah, of course I will. I never close the doors, I've said before. And we went and had a chat, and the layout that they had was, on a laptop, a massive profile PowerPoint of, the identity of the club, where it wants to go. And everything was just sort of, the senses were kind of going, and like, this is me, this is what, it suits my ambition. It's exactly what I'd want to look for in a club, and it's back sort of local. I worked and lived in Salford, so everything just sort of ticked the box. It would have been, I spoke to Gary Neville, I spoke to Ryan Giggs, and I'm a mad Manchester United fan growing up. And I actually thought previous to that, what would I do if I ever got the call off one of them? And I just, listen to your heroes and etc. And I just couldn't have said no. And I knew in the back of my mind, I had the Tranmere, the Macclesfield, and the Gateshead, where I'd just missed out.
Yeah.
And I felt, with the backing, what they had going on off the field, with the talks of the players they were looking to bring in, it was players that had all had success and I'd played with before. So, sorry, one second. So I really thought, no, I'm going to give this a go, because this could be the ticket for me and for finally my club to get into the Football League. And I went down, watched the playoff, and I thought, I really, in my mind, was thinking, I want them to get promoted this year, because it would have been a drop down on another level for me. It would have been to Conference North, and that was sort of, when you do your pros and cons of looking at signing for clubs, that was a massive con. And I just thought, I was in League One a few years ago, and now I'm looking at Conference North. Is it just going to go downhill? But they got beat on penalties, and it was a disappointment. But I thought it's actually a fresh start with me. In the new season, there's going to be probably a decent overhaul of players from the team that's just played now, and I just thought, no, we're going to give this a fresh go, and it's going to be a team that's going to be sort of built around myself and some of the lads that I played with previously. And I thought, I want to do something, and what more fitting could it have been to be, where I grew up and worked. So it's, like I said before, it's some things are just a little bit funny in football where they're meant to be. And obviously the journey with Salford was incredible, as you might have seen. The documentary doesn't show it.
No.
That's literally like a roller coaster on the documentary, and it doesn't show it, because if you lived it, sort of game by game, it was sort of like a Hollywood movie rather than a documentary. It just literally had every cliffhanger and sort of comeback that you could possibly, you think that couldn't have happened, surely. But honestly, it did. That's exactly how it went.
That was obviously the season. Basically, Salford just blew that league away. And obviously, for my perspective, it was a case of, and you could see it over the years that Salford were the team to beat, and everybody was basically, it was like going to United, as a lower league club and trying to get one over them. Obviously, Salford then you could always see that they were planning maybe 2 or 3 seasons ahead of themselves. From my perspective, that they weren't going to be settled at National League North. They were already playing for National League, and then when they got into the National League, you could see they were planning for League Two. So could you feel that building in that season? Could you feel like we're just going to go up and up and we're not stopping?
I mean, it was really funny because, and this was just because how the season was going. I mean, we'd had a fantastic start. We actually got beat in the first game, and it was against Darlington, which was a big rival. They'd followed them through the leagues, and there was a strong backing from Darlington, and obviously the relationship they'd had previously and the head-to-heads. And a couple of our lads that were new didn't know about that. It's a bit like playing in a Manchester derby, and you're not sort of from Manchester, or you're not sort of studied the history between the two sides, and you come into it sort of blind. I mean, I knew of Darlington, and I knew of sort of a little bit of about a couple of the teams that were like, oh, look at Salford here, they've got this documentary, and look at this person on this documentary, etc. So you could see it was brewing a little bit, just with the fact that who we were signing. We'd made, I think it was about, it was over 10 signings within the first couple of maybe weeks of the off season, and you're seeing the money emojis that were flying around Twitter and all this, you're buying this and you're buying that. So then that was when I sort of started thinking, there is a lot of hatred in terms of the way that Salford are going about things, and that's just what Gary Neville and the Class of '92 wanted to do. They felt the season before they'd missed out because of the way they acted in recruitment, etc., and they just went for it. And luckily enough, obviously, I was one of the targets. And I think pretty much most of the other ones that they wanted, they got, which is because they've got the pulling power. And because of, 99% of the lads that came in because they knew who was coming in with them, and they knew that it was going to be a journey of success. And any player wants to be sort of related with promotions. They want a strong CV because they want to keep their they want to play at the highest level. They want to play at clubs that, all the players want to play for those clubs. When we played against teams, everyone wanted to beat Salford or play well to join Salford. Similarly with some of the other clubs I was at previously, your Tranmere's are a massive club in the league that they was in, and everyone raises the game that little extra percentage. And for us, we probably went into it thinking, we're going to steamroll it, and the defeat was probably the best thing we had at Darlington, the home game. And it was at home, so everybody had come down, big crowd that was on, and it was sort of like, a kick right in the face. And from there, it was just like, actually, we're going to have to roll our sleeves up and do, the ugly stuff as well. And we went on a fantastic run after that. And it got to a point where we actually sat down before training and we was looking at the fixtures, and we was like, I think we'll have the League One by this fixture, by this fixture, by this fixture. And it was really sort of naive, but it was just, and I remember a couple of the 92 when they used to talk about it, when you're going into a game knowing that you're not going to get beat.
Yeah.
We was actually walking out on the pitch and we were thinking, this team isn't going to beat us. It was just because of the run we'd had. You look in your dressing room and you see your players that are next to you, and you just think, there's no chance this team in front of us are going to beat us. And through the game, we got on this run. And we had a bit of a bad patch, over, I think it was just after we actually decided between us, we was like, no, we're going to win this. We'll won it by just after Christmas, etc. And we got a couple of really bad results. And I don't know whether it was we'd got too casual, or the teams had sussed how we played, or it was pitches getting worse, and teams were doing that a little bit more, and etc. And we sort of then said, we're gonna have to change the way of our mentality. We're gonna need to get back to sort of basics, simplicity, and build that sort of attitude that we had of where we're going to go out and not get beat, because at one point we couldn't get a victory.
Right.
And there was a couple of rival teams over, FC United over the Christmas period that took a lot of points off us. And people start asking questions, some of the journalists, write in the papers for the non-league, and some of the journalists that were sort of hitting out at the class of '92, and there was a little bit more of a enjoyment that we weren't doing well.
Yeah.
And just from, I think we put a couple of results together when it was getting quite close with Harrogate. And we kicked right on, and I think that was down to the players themselves. There was a couple of leaders alongside myself that just grabbed the group really and said, look, this is, we can't not get promoted this season. It would be an absolute disaster. Even though the club would have been ahead of schedule still, I think they had a 5-year plan, and where they are now, they're massively in front of that. But I still can't see it slowing down, to be honest, which is the mentality that the owners have had, the manager and the players that they've got there now. But yeah, we sort of pulled them over the line because it was a lot closer than what it should have been. We actually won the league with a defeat. We was playing Boston, and Boston came, and for the first 20-25 minutes, we were, who are these? Like, they were really, really good and really made it tough for us. And there was a result that was going down at the other game at Harrogate that saw us over the line, and we finished emphatically with a win at Leamington. But it was a lot closer than what it should have been, but we knew it had to be done that season. Did
you learn a lot in that period as a captain? Obviously, sort of going into the season after and so forth with your career, was that a massive, obviously learning curve as a player, but obviously as a captain of a team that's on an upward curve there, and it's hit a bit of a stumble?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really met Bernard and Jono, who obviously were the managers when I joined, but I'd have heard about them, seen the documentary, etc. And when I met them, they really sort of made this. It was almost like I knew them for a while, or
yeah.
I'd been at school with them, or something had happened previously, and we just sort of clicked. I mean, there was definitely arguments throughout the season, and disagreements, and that's what you need. But as soon as I met them, and they sort of talked about, look, we want to make you the captain, and I just felt this sort of sense that I don't want to let you two down, because you've sort of given me this opportunity, and you obviously they're two great guys. I wanted them. They were progressing, and they still are progressing as managers themselves through the leagues. And I just thought, you know what? Even throughout the season, when they were just sort of with us on the coaches, they were at the back of the bus with us. They'd come and sit and eat when we had food after training. They'd sit with us. We'd sort of hear about bits of their own personal life, and they just really got this group. And we knew about the group before, because they sort of went on the lads' sort of dues that were socialising, and they were just literally, you want to go out on the pitch and put everything out there for them. And I think there's a big turning point in the game at Kidderminster that you've seen. We was losing, we was getting absolutely battered 4-0, and it was probably the best sort of comeback in Salford's history. I mean, we only came away with a point, and I'm still disappointed about that. But from where we were with 10 minutes to go, it was unbelievable. But it just shows, and how it's portrayed in the documentary. It was just sort of one of them where you just didn't want to let them down, and that was probably their last match. I think if that hadn't have happened, I don't think they would have seen the season out. And it sort of shows that on the documentary. And while I was there as captain, as a player, I didn't want that to happen. And I just sort of knew I had a good sort of bunch of lads with me, and a few other sort of strong leaders that had just literally lift the group and say, look, this can't happen. We can't let these fellas down. They give everything so far over the season. They've opened up to us, etc. And we built up a brilliant relationship. And it's probably not one I've had with management before. And that's what sort of gets them, their results and their fantastic team ethos. And I learned literally, the sort of the relationship between a manager and a captain. And you're literally the manager on the pitch.
Right.
And, they can shout stuff from the side, or you're the manager from training. You know what I mean? When you see standards dropping, or you see something that's not quite right, you need to sort of be on it straight away, because you don't want anything to creep in. And luckily, I've had a lot of success in the teams that I've had, and learnt from players that have done exactly the same thing with me and not let me take the foot off the gas, etc. And there's going to be times where the voices on the sideline can't be heard, or they can't sort of affect it, and it was just sort of go out there and give it my best. And I'm pretty sure the others will see me doing what I'm doing and think, I'm going to have to push myself too. So it was one of them, and that just took us then to the end of the season. And obviously, the way that Salford have been, they've been absolutely ruthless, and they'll back every decision they've made, because so far it's been a success.
Yeah.
And obviously Bernard and John all left, but they did what I did at Halifax, and what I've actually just done at Salford itself, and left on a massive high and contributed fantastically to the journey that they've been on.
That's it. How was that transition then? Because obviously, I know you said you'd worked under Graham Alexander previously. Was that a bit of a relief for you that somebody was coming in that knew about you early doors, and you didn't have to, not prove yourself, that's probably the wrong thing, but you already had a foot in as such with him? And
well, I actually thought it was going to work the other way, and I had a joke. I actually went. This was one of the things that was sort of. They actually took me to meet the managers before everybody else. So I actually went to Hotel Football. I had a chat with Gary, and I actually got to meet the management. And when he announced it was going to be Graham Alexander, I actually had a joke and said, "Oh, you're joking! I didn't play under him at Fleetwood."
Right.
And he was laughing. He was like, "No way!" And I was like, "But I actually don't think there's possibly a better person at the minute to do what you want at Salford, because he probably would have had jobs in the leagues higher than where he was. He was at Scunthorpe, and he just left, and then he came there, and I thought, how have you got hold of him? It's a massive coup. And I just knew it was sort of a switch from where Bernard and John were, because obviously he keeps himself slightly separate, and sort of you would look at it more, not more professional, because I don't think it is more professional, because Bernard and John were really professional in the way they went about the preparations for matches and all the rest of it, because we had all the analysis and the videos before that when we was with them. It was just another step that Graham had learnt from his time playing and managing himself, that just takes it that next notch. And I just knew that his attention to detail, picking where you travel for pre-season, and limiting contacts with sort of outside world really, and just nestling down and working hard and getting a good pre-season, and the players that he would have then attracted because of who he was.
Yeah.
It's just, I just knew that it was going to go again with him there, and it was a chance for me to then actually say, well, I'm in another situation here where I could easily just fizzle out, and I don't want that to happen. So obviously my position as captain, may or may not have helped, but with Graham, I don't think it would have, because I've seen him where he's dropped captains before and played others. Even in my first season at Salford, I didn't play for the first I played for the first couple of games, but I was more of I came on and sort of showed up when we was winning last 20, 30 minutes, and I still played my captain's role off the field. We had a bad spell again at January, which was a theme at Salford. I don't know why. And I actually came in, we changed formation, and from there we had a fantastic run. I think we kept 7 clean sheets on the bounce and played all the way through to the end of the season. And obviously the promotion and being at Wembley, obviously going up the steps, things, that is the stuff, boys dream of. And he actually came and said to me, look, you deserve this, enjoy your moment because of where you've been and what you've done. And he's like, you've never needed to sort of prove me wrong, etc. It's more for yourself, and just, I don't. Well, he actually complimented and said, I've not met too many people like yourself in the role that you took up at Salford as a captain, and I think a lot of lads that were there learnt a lot from you. So it was nice to hear coming from himself, and obviously we'll definitely still keep in touch, and I've got no sort of qualms. I thought when I come back from my injury at Salford, I'd shown myself really well.
Yeah.
In the League Two, which I knew was different this time, because when I played for Salford in League Two, I felt comfortable. I felt myself.
Yeah.
I felt how I should have done maybe at the time at Fleetwood, and it showed with my performances. And their progression again is going to go even further. And it was a time for me to think about my future, my longevity in the game, my family, my wife, and obviously my daughter now that's here. And and I knew that I'd done my part for Salford, and it was then that I probably had to make the decision to move on.
Yeah, oh yeah, because you're at Stockport now, aren't you?
Yeah, so this is the bit where obviously I just signed in February. And it was a similar situation, Salford, and I can see exactly its reason why I've probably done it. Same scenario, a new takeover, really enthusiastic owner with massive plans that reach my own, and talks about new training grounds and the new sort of players that we're looking at bringing in, and the group that's already there, that's on the back of a promotion already, that had real togetherness, a bit like what the first year at Salford did. I know there's some similar players that have transferred across to Stockport from there, but just a real mates dressing room, where they obviously do stuff away from football together, and I think that's a massive part of a successful team is the lads really gelling, and I can sense that already when I've been in there. I've not been in there long. I've gone in there and played a few games. We actually went on an excellent run. They hadn't had a win in 2020, and I actually played my first match. And like I said, football's funny. Scored on my debut in front of the Cheadle, which is the main end at Stockport, and it was the first game that my wife and my daughter had come to, so she actually saw that. So things are funny. Things are funny in football, and I'd obviously got off to a great start. Got some fantastic messages off the fans. They've got a real massive support. It's a massive club, and they're looking to do what a few of the other teams that I've been at, and return to the Football League. So hopefully, when everything's safe and we're getting a little bit closer now, I don't know how this season concludes. We're actually in the playoffs. We played the last match and secured 7th place. So whether that means we stay in it for this season and compete or not, it might get sort of scrapped and then we start again next year. But that'll be the same feeling I've felt, when I went to Salford, 3 years ago. So I'd love it if it was the same result and same outcome.
Yeah, definitely. I've been Stockport quite a few times over the past few seasons, and I was there a lot back in the last season, obviously, when they got promoted up to National League. And for a non-league club, when you go down there, it's got I think for me, it's got such an aura about it that it shouldn't be where it is. And I think it was about 6,000-7,000 in there when I went down there. I think it was a record. I think they beat it again the week after. And you could just feel like it's such a big club with such a big history that you could feel the movement. Because obviously they've been on decline for quite a number of years, and you can feel that shift in that upward trajectory now. And like I said, we're in the playoffs now. It's all in ifs and buts in it at the minute. It's such a weird sort of capsule of time at the minute. You just don't know what's going to happen.
No, just as a player, you're just waiting, keeping yourself fit, doing your bits. We've had a few calls where we've done quizzes and just try to keep the group together in terms of stuff that you can do. But it's not a lot, and some lads are coming out of contracts, which is a real shame because it's a tough time for anybody, as I know, when you come out at the end of your contract. But we've not so many teams looking to sort of recruit. It's really difficult because some of the players are thinking, what am I going to do next? When fortunately the furlough scheme, Stockport have taken it up, and they've contributed the full amount themselves, and whether they would have been in that position before the new owner took over, I'm not too sure, or whether they would have been in a more stable position before that. I'm not too sure. What I did say when I signed was I was really excited to learn about the history of Stockport. I know some friends that have played there in the past when they've been in the Football League and, coming back up to the level that they're at now. And, I really want to learn about the club. I played for my hometown at Salford, and this is my wife's hometown, Stockport. So it's another sort of thing that I'm going to have a connection with, a really strong connection with. And like I said, I'm going to give it my all when we get started again. But the numbers that we're generating in terms of the support, even away from home, you just think, as a player, that's what you do want to be involved in, and it stands out a mile. The park, Edgeley Park, it's going to get refurbishment, and the training ground, and it's going to be, fantastic. And for me to sort of again be in the start of something like that, I'm going to really try and enjoy it. And like I said, when you get that opportunity, you don't want to let anybody down. So that'll be the same case again. And hopefully, like I said, we'll have the same sort of success as what we did at Salford and some of the previous clubs I've had, because the idea for me is to get as many promotions on the CV and know that I've done what I can for when I play for a club and sort of give my service.
Brilliant. Well, we wish you all the best. We'll be there, hopefully, following it again. Hopefully we can get back to some normality ASAP. Thanks for your time, Lee. It's been a great chat. And like I say, hopefully a couple of months we can have another chat and we're in League Two.
Perfect, mate. No, I'm really pleased to speak to you, mate. It's good to see you again, and make sure you come down, come and see us.
Yeah, will do. Cheers, mate.
All right, mate. Thank you. Thanks a lot.